Hello everyone and welcome to yet another recreational programming session with Mr. Zozin as usual. So today I want to try to do something particularly interesting. So here you see a little bit of animation and you probably recognize this kind of animation and this kind of style of the effect. And if you didn't know, this kind of effect is called line boil. So the way that effect is produced is when an artist, or rather an animator, right? So because it comes from the times when the animations were hand-drawn. So when an animator draws an animation, they quite often overdraw the same lines several times, right? So because maybe some parts of the animations are not moving, but animator is not a robot, so they can't really do that job perfectly every time. And every frame, the line comes out kind of different. So, and as far as I know, the artists at the time when the animation only started, they were struggling to kind of trying to get rid of that effect, but at some point they gave up and kind of embraced it. And that particular vibe of line boil became sort of popular, right? To the point that people literally in a digital age, right, where you can draw perfect lines every single time, we have a vector graphics, right? So we have vector graphics. We got to the point that people literally emulating that on the on computers, right? So that's how popular it become. So this is an application that I use for my pre-streams, right? So usually when I start a stream, I start a timer and I wait 5 to 10 minutes, and I coded it myself, right? So I also accepted a lot of contributions for different people, and it tries to emulate that line boil effect. And the way it does that is I literally drew each individual digit in here myself, right? So if you take a look at the source code, and it's going to be available in the description, so there is an atlas somewhere in the assets, I think, somewhere in the assets. So yeah, here is the digits, and as you can see, I have all of the digits plus the colon, and I drew 3 variants of each individual digit, and that was actually very easy to do. I just like drew it like as I usually would. And obviously, since I'm not a robot, it came out different every single time. Even though I was trying to make it look the same, it still comes out different. So this line boil effect actually occurs naturally, right? So it occurs very naturally. So, but that means that I can't easily change the font. What if I want to use a different font today? What if I want to be able to customize this kind of font? And so that means I need to be able to maybe somehow generate that line boiling effect procedurally. So some time ago, I'm going to put the link to that session in the description. We looked into a library called FreeType, right? And it's I would say it's a foundational library for software, right? For generally for the internet for software, because pretty much any software, especially free software, is using this library for rendering fonts, and it has a capability of not only rendering the fonts, but also extracting the curve of a particular glyph, right? And the curves are usually Bezier curves, quadratic Bezier curves, and the lines. So that means theoretically, what we can do, we can extract the glyphs for all of the digits and for all of the and for the column, right? And since we have control points of the Bezier curve, we can procedurally just slightly variate them, producing this sort of like a wobbly effect of line boil. And maybe then, after we generated a couple of variations, we can basically bake them into a similar atlas, and then just feed it into the application, and there you go, we changed the font, but preserved the line boiling effect. Maybe the line boiling effect is not going to look good for all of the fonts, but for something like a Comic Sans, it might be actually good. Honestly, if you think about it, line boil effect for Comic Sans kind of fits perfectly, right? I never thought about it, or yeah. So it's kind of creative for that because it's so wacky. And it's just like fits that. So, and that's exactly what I want you to do today, right? So I want to try to extract the curves of particular glyphs, modify them, and just basically re-render them. So yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. So, and one thing I remember is that after you extracted the glyph, after you extracted an outline, you're also able to modify that outline and feed it back into FreeType so it renders it. If we boil Comic Sans, we're gonna get comic broth. Very funny. Anyways, so by the way, where can we find a Comic Sans? As far as I know, do you guys remember there was a Comic Sans, like a mono Comic Sans for programming? Somebody made like a font for programming, mono-spaced one, but it's also Comic Sans. Does anybody remember the link for that? So Comic Mono, yeah, let's actually use that. So let's use that as sort of like a, I'll even look into that, right? So it seems to be, yeah, there we go. So that's pretty cool. A legible monospace font. Do I even have that in my void? I'm going to search for comic. No, I don't. So we'll have to download that. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to actually put that in here. And it is on GitHub, right? So it's fully open source. Does that mean I can maybe go into GitHub? Is there a link to the GitHub? So here it is. Here is the link. So I can go. I didn't even start that. Why I never start that repo? What the fuck? Excuse me. Excuse me. So I'm going to go into the description. I'm going to put that in the description for people on YouTube. Right. And then here I also need to put a session, like a FreeType 2 session to be done. Right. So where we explored FreeType API and stuff like that. Okay, so let's actually maybe start in a separate project, right? So I want to actually first develop the algorithm that takes a font and generates like different variations, and then we're going to integrate that into the main application. So that means that the application is probably going to depend on FreeType. As of right now, it doesn't depend on any FreeType library because it's just an atlas. But what I'm thinking is that maybe I'm going to make this application depend on FreeType only at compile time. So at compile time, we're going to have a meta program, right? So my usual like thing that I like to do, which is going to have a meta program, right, which links with the FreeType, generates an atlas and then bakes it into the main application. So the main application, at least at runtime, does not depend on FreeType. Or maybe we can even use something like STB TrueType, but I don't know if STB TrueType allows you to easily extract outlines. I only know that FreeType allows you to do that, right? So it's just that's why I'm depending on FreeType. So, but anyways, not taken too far. Honestly, this idea of having a like Turing complete complicated meta program at compile time pops up in any non-trivial project. Like if you try to do any non-trivial project, you always will need a meta program that does something complicated at compile time. It's so freaking common. I'm surprised the language developers and build tool developers haven't addressed that properly. The only addressing that I've seen so far is a shitty scripting language like CMake that is unbearable and unusable. That is not the way to go about it. Right, the way to go about it is to literally use the same language for that meta preprocessing step as the main application. So they address it with CMake, yeah. It's like, well, some language developers are kind of working on that, but it doesn't really go into mainstream yet. Yeah, like Jai, like Zig. Jai did its best, honestly, so far. Jai did it the best. But anyways, but you don't even need any special language. You literally can do that in C, right? So essentially you can just have two programs and a simple script that builds the preprocessing program, which does the preprocessing work, and then takes the preprocessing work and compiles it with the main application, right? So you want to do it like that. But anyways, so it's basically answering to the question whether the not taken too far. No, it's not taken too far. It's just people don't do things properly, unfortunately. So let's actually put something like this. Like let's create line boil. So this is going to be line boil, and I'm going to maybe grab TTF. So there's a bold version. Let's actually use a bold version because maybe it's going to be more visible this way. Okay, so here's going to be the main application, right? So this is going to be something like that. And yeah, the thing we'll need to do, we need to link with the FreeType. So on the previous session, we actually did that. So I'm going to take the code from the previous session. So this is basically spline nodes and stuff like that. I'm going to put that in the description. Build asm would be great. well, maybe some people do that, right? So if you want to use like Asm for building Asm projects, you probably need to have a lot of like ready to use routines for different stuff, for different common operations, just basically like with Knob. Or you can maybe even use Knob from assembly. I mean, nobody forbids you doing that. So there's some code in here, some interesting code. So raster C, I think that's the thing. And I'm gonna probably just copy paste some code from here. So this is just a rasterization, and there is a program in here somewhere which does the font initialization and stuff like that. There we go. So here it is. The first thing we need to do, we need to include FreeType library, right? So this is how we do that. So it's kind of funny. We already discussed that you have to include this token, right? Because instead of ft build, there is define ft FreeType, right? So it chuckles me every time. Like, I've never seen that anywhere except FreeType. I feel like FreeType is the only library that does this kind of stuff. So it's kind of funny to me, honestly. But anyways. So the next thing you need to do, you need to actually initialize the FreeType library. So it's sort of like an OOP thingy. So you allocate this thing on a stack, and then you have to initialize this library, right? You initialize this library by providing a pointer to this library and then taking an error. And then if it produces an error, you have to basically die like this. You just return 1 and yeah, stuff like that. So if I try to maybe compile this entire thing, so what we're going to be using for compilation, right? So maybe Knob. I don't freaking know, but do I want to use Knob? I want to use Makefiles for now. Today I'm in the mood of using Makefiles. So we went down. What the fuck? So the internet is pretty unstable lately, so I don't know what happened. we just dropped a couple of frames. So was it too bad? I hope it wasn't too bad. Okay, so what do we have in here? And it can't find this entire stuff. So as far as I know, what we have to find where FreeType is located. It is in fact located in user include FreeType 2 electric boogaloo. That's where it is updated. Just a short hiccup. Okay, so that's understandable. Thank you so much. Okay, so we managed to compile that, but this motherfucker doesn't even link. It doesn't even link because we have to do L FreeType 2. Is that what we have to do? It's just FreeType. Oh, it's just FreeType. Okay, so we managed to compile this entire thing. And if I try to run the whole thing, as you can see, it runs and it doesn't even fail. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. 36 frames. In fact, we dropped just a second, 452 frames. That's how many we dropped. So it was not 36. Maybe you're referring to something, but I didn't recognize that reference. I really apologize for that. So the next thing we need to do, we need to create a new face, right? So essentially, face, I suppose, is whatever is stored in a font file path. So I'm going to do something like that, and we're literally going to just send comic mono bold. There we go. We're loading that specific face, and of course, if it fails, we just report error. We're actually like trying to distinguish different errors and stuff like that. So if it's unknown file format, we say it's unknown file format. If it's something else, we say it is something else. So maybe in here, I'm going to say something like okay, okay. Okie dokie, and let's try to recompile the whole thing, right? So we didn't do any fucky wacky, and there we go, and yeah, it says okay, right? Who needs LLMs? Who needs coding agents if you can't just copy paste code? Like seriously, you can just copy paste code. The face of modern text rendering, yeah. Take agency back into your hands. Copy paste your code yourself. Don't let a stupid clanker copy paste it for you. Take the agency back into your hands. Bro, do you even exist? Confirm to the universe, that you still exist by copy pasting the code yourself. Make copy pasting great again. Eggs fucking acly, mate. Eggs fucking acly. So anyways, the next thing we do, we are actually loading a character, right? So load default, I don't remember what the fuck is a load default, but anyways. So we are taking this entire thing, right? So, and we're then loading the glyph, right? So we're loading the glyph. So let me actually search for this entire thing. It's kind of interesting, honestly. I think it is kind of interesting, chat. So here is the load chart. Here it is. We have load flags. Do you use the load flags for anything? A flag indicated what to load for this glyph. So ftload constants can be used to control the glyph loading process, whether outline should be scaled, whether to load bitmaps, not whether to hint. Oh, I see. So, and ftload is just like means load the default thing, the most default thing possible. So ftload default, and as far as I know, it's literally just, yeah, it is literally just 0. So yeah, it's kind of funny. So no scale, no hinting, no render, no bitmap. I feel like at McDonald's or something, like no pickles, no mustard, or I'm sorry. So this is the error, and if an error happens in here, we can say that we couldn't load the glyph, right? We couldn't load the glyph. So after we loaded the glyph, the usual thing we do in here is just like we're doing the outlines, right? So we going inside of the glyph, and we're just taking the outlines, and this is endpoints of the outline, and we're rendering, we're doing all sorts of things in here, and so on and so forth. The thing I want to find is, can you feed that outline somewhere and get a BMP image back? Because I vaguely remember FreeType being able to do that, right? Because the usual workflow with FreeType is that you send in the glyph, right, you load the glyph, you give it to the FreeType, it gives you then back BMP or some sort of a like a raster image. So I want to be able to directly give it outline that I modified, right? So because I'm going to be modifying it and like tweaking around and stuff like that. And I also vaguely remember FreeType had an ability to copy outlines, right? So basically clone them in a Rust sense, right? So, you know, in Rust, objects usually have a clone method, which makes a copy. FreeType allowed you to do that as well. I vaguely remember, so it's allegedly. So my idea is that we load the glyph, we clone it, wiggle around the control points just a tiny bit, just a slightly, and then feed it into the renderer of FreeType. So then it gives us BMP back, which is slightly distorted. So that's kind of the idea in here, right? That's kind of the idea. But anyways, so let me find the definition of FT face, right? So because inside of the FT face, we have the glyph and we have the outline and so on and so forth, right? So I suppose it's going to be something like this, right? So it's going to be a name of the structure. Let me find it. So there you go. It's a face rect, a rect. So maybe it's a struct FT. Yeah, there you go. Oh, because it's an alias to FT rect anyway. So I mean not rect but rec. So, and if I go in here, where is this thing? Yeah, here it is, and that's probably the definition. So then here we have a glyph, right? So, and that is a glyph slot. That is a glyph slot, and then I wonder if I can just like use it, feed it into etag. I have a deja vu a little bit. Did I ask this question on the previous FreeType session, by the way? I feel like I asked this question whether I can feed all of that shit into etag. And then I tried it and it didn't work and I kind of give up. I kind of vaguely started to remember that chat. I'm having a deja vu. Yeah, here's the outline, right? So here's the outline. And let's actually find who feeds that outline, who accepts this outline. You're hallucinated, probably NAI. Okay, whatever. Very helpful, chat. You're very helpful today. I really appreciate you. Okay, so outline get inside border. This is not exactly what I want. Is there anything? So you can get bbox. They have a special function for beatboxing. I really appreciate that as well. All right, so what else do we have on here? So decompose. Okay, so you can decompose the thing. Outline check. Copy. This is the shit that we'll need. Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. So this is what I was talking about. So you can copy an outline. So copy an outline into another one. Both objects must have the same sizes number of points, number of contours when this function is called. This is a little bit sus. So this is not really cloning them, right? So it's not particularly cloning, but I want to save that just in case, right? So just in case, because I think it's going to be useful for us. But anyways, so what other functions? Outline transform, so you can transform some things. Given a matrix, wow, that's you have matrices and shit. So I can scale, translate, and so on and so forth. Okay. It's a 2x2, a 2x2. So that means I can't really. I mean, should be enough, right? So to just scale and rotate, not to translate though. To translate a two-dimensional thing, you'll have to have a matrix 3x3 at least, or like 3x2 or 2x3. I don't remember. So yeah, that's kind of cool. So embolden, you can embolden. Okay, so you can get bitmap, bitch. Now that's what I'm talking about. You feed an outline and bitmap, and you get. Why is it a constant? This is sus. All right. So render an outline within a bitmap. The outline image is simply ORed to the target bitmap. That is very interesting. So that means it's just like it's slapped. You can do that several times. Okay. So a library, a handle of the library, that's understandable. So, and then a pointer to the source outline descriptor, a pointer to the target bitmap descriptor. So this function does not create the bitmap. It only renders an outline image within the one you pass to it. Consequently, the various fields in a bitmap should be set accordingly. It will use the raster corresponding to the default glyph format. The value of num grays field in a bitmap is ignored if you select the gray level rasterizer, use outline render blah 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 blah. But I mean, we're a step closer to what we want to achieve, chat, aren't we? Aren't we? We're a step closer because we loaded the face. Face has a glyph and an outline. So what we can do, we can copy that outline, tweak it around, and then render it. So there is a set bitmap. You're telling me there is a set bitmap. Chat, stop hallucinating. I'm gonna put a submod. If you continue hallucinating, I'm gonna submod. You won't be able to say anything. So anyways, so how do you create a bitmap, chat? How do you create a bitmap? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Only get no set exactly. So bitmap init. So we have a. What's the difference between bitmap init and bitmap new? So one is British, another one is American. I'm so sorry. It kind of like reminds me. It's just like SD. I think it's SDL that has that. I think it's literally SDL that has that. Color. Yeah. Man, this is so fucking funny. Like, look at that. The color definition defined by British, or it's not British. It's a Commonwealth spelling, right? So it's a Commonwealth, or so it's a little bit bigger than just British. So it's just so funny to me. I wonder if anyone specifically complained that the color is spelled incorrectly. Excuse me, your word is spelled incorrectly. Fix. So pretty sure someone did, yeah. But anyways, so it's kind of similar to that. So one is British, another one is American. Ray Lead need color, maybe. So I wonder if anybody actually created an issue for that, and Ray San has rejected it. So anyways, yeah, so we need to go back to searching for FT bitmap, right? So we have init, and let's take a look at what's the difference between them. So initialize a pointer to bitmap structure, or pointer to the, okay. So I suppose one allocates the thing and another one, it's deprecated. Okay, that's really funny. Okay. But then how do I set a particular value? Bitmap copy. Okay, so you can embolden, convert, and so on and so forth. Is there any sort of like examples? So, okay, here it is. Here is the some documentation. Handling bitmap objects and stuff like that. So, yeah. Bitmap handling. The section contains function for handling bitmap object and automatically adjusting the target bitmap buffer size as needed. Know that none of the functions changes the bitmap flow. Okay, so to set the bitmap flow. All right, so let's just try to maybe initialize this entire thing and see what's going to happen. So that's kind of weird that I can't. Is there something like resize or maybe something related to size? Bitmap size. Okay. So bitmap sizes and whatnot. Yeah. Or maybe, so when I'm render something, maybe it will automatically do something. I don't know. Okay, so let's just allocate this thing on the stack, because that's a usual pattern in here, right? So you usually allocate things on the stack, right? And then you kind of initialize them. By the way, this one, I feel like it has to be 0 initialized. I have a strange feeling that it has to be 0 initialized. I'm just saying. All right, so here's the thing. We're creating a bitmap, 0 initializing it, and then we are just doing something like this. Funny enough, it doesn't really return any errors or anything like that, so it kind of just works. Maybe we can look into that in the debugger, right? So the debugger wagger, I'm going to put a breakpoint in here. I'm going to try to recompile it. Let's actually recompile that with ggdb. Right, so, and it's just like do something like this, and it doesn't even compile. So a character, yeah, so let's actually set the character to something like Q, right? So that's the character. Bitmap init didn't work. Excuse me. But here it is. Here it is. Does that mean I literally have to include FT bitmap to be able to use this kind of stuff? Is that what it means? I thought, like, it is enough to just include this thing. I literally thought it is enough to just include this thing, but apparently it is not. So obviously it's not going to work probably like this, because I have to. So user include FreeType. Yeah, so FreeType. I'm starting to, maybe I'm just like trying to access some forbidden API. Okay, so apparently it's not like a default API, so it's like an extra API. I hope I don't try to access something like private or anything. But I mean, if it was private, we wouldn't even have any special, any headers at all, right? So I mean, that just means that maybe some extra, right? So it's not for normies, right? So everything for normies is automatically included in here. If you need some extra stuff, you probably have to include it yourself. That's probably what it means. Right, so makes sense to me. Okay, so and now if I try to do maybe something like gf2 main, right, so I'm gonna run the whole thing, and as you can see, that seems to be working. Let's take a look at bitmap. It is 0 initialized, as expected. It has row, width, pitch, buffer. Let's initialize this thing. Nothing got initialized. It stayed 0 initialized. Okay. How do I even create a bitmap if initialization didn't freaking help? So, yeah, let's take a look. Maybe there is some example. So there is a copy, embolden, right? So you can do convert, you can do some other things. Right, it will be hilarious if the init function just zeros. Maybe it just zeros, right? So you can do done, and this is, it destroys bitmap object initialized with ft init or something. All right, so maybe you, like 0 initialized bitmap is a valid bitmap, and the thing you have to do in here is probably just like directly try to render into this thing. I don't freaking know, but since it's a const, it's probably not going to modify it or anything. So let's just feed a library in here. Then I'm gonna take the face, right? So did I load the face? No, not really. So for the character, yeah, so here's the character, we take the glyph, we take the outline, right, so take the outline, then we give it the pointer to bitmap, and just hoping for the best, just hoping for the best. So maybe in here, yeah, so let's try to maybe compile the whole thing. Implicit, and it is implicit declaration. We're definitely trying to touch something very much forbidden in FreeType. I didn't expect that. Something is very forbidden. So this one can also return an error, by the way. We'll have to report that error. But, so we also have to include this kind of stuff. Man, it just like makes me a little bit nervous, right? The fact that I have to include all of that stuff is kind of weird. FreeType police is coming. Yeah, I'm also fucking coming. So let me see. Maybe we'll have to put an error in here, right? So let's actually put something like this. I could not render the glyph, right? So could not render the glyph. Okay. So let's try to recompile the whole thing. And what is going on in here? So this is not a glyph. Maybe it's not a pointer. It is a pointer. So what you don't like, because it's a value, so you have to take a pointer again. So you do reference twice just to take a reference yet again. That is very cool. That is very poggers, I would even say. What if I just like run main? It started the breakpoint, of course. It just started the breakpoint. If I try to just run the whole thing, it just worked. We feed it an empty bitmap, which is fully zero initialized, and we said get a bitmap, and we passed it by a const pointer, by the way, so that means it's not allowed to modify anything within the bitmap, and it didn't error out. It successfully just exited and said, okay, I wonder what is going on. We gotta look into this thing under the debugger. We gotta look into this thing under the debugger, so let's quickly do that. Something is really sus is going. I swear to God, if they take this constant reference, cast it to non-constant one and still try to fucking modify it. I swear to God if they do something like that, because like otherwise I don't see any other way to do that, except maybe if the bitmap is very small, they just ignore it. There are more pointers at play. Yeah, so it's just like something sus. Okay, so let's actually run it in the debugger, and let's take a look at the bitmap. And obviously, this is because I'm not reading documentation. Maybe there is something in the documentation, but it's kind of fun to explore that on your own, right? So let's actually go. So initialization didn't do shit. And I'm starting this thing, and it didn't do shit as well, right? So your bitmap is fully zero. It is entirely zero. You feed it into get bitmap by a constant pointer. It saw that it's a constant pointer, didn't modify anything, didn't error out, and just successfully gave you nothing. Maybe it's up to you to fill all the fields. Maybe. Here is an interesting thing. So it accepts width and rows, right? What if I set them up? What if I set them up? So I'm going to try that. And if it doesn't work, doesn't do what I expect, I suppose I'm going to just look into the documentation. Let's do a bitmap. So it has a width, right? So let's set width to 69, right? So, and the rows, let's also set it to 69, right? So this is going to be something like that. And so let's try to compile the whole thing, right? So we're compiling the whole thing. It seems to be compiling, right? So, and let's just run it. Let's take a look at a bitmap. So here it is. We set rows and width to 69, 69. Let's try to initialize that. It set it to 0. So yeah, people, I'm so tired of this thing. It's just like people every time see this ASM in 3 is just like, what the fuck is this thing? So for those who doesn't know, okay, so X8, maybe I should record like an X-banger video about this thing. You know, have you seen my X-banger videos lately? I posted 3 of them. They were rather popular. Right, so I should record an X-banger video about these breakpoints. So in 3, right, so it's an x86-64 instruction. So it's an x86 assembly instruction used to generate a breakpoint trap, primarily for debugging purposes. So essentially, it's a special interrupt or some sort of breakpoint trap, and a lot of debuggers are capable of catching it and setting a breakpoint at that specific place. It's a very convenient way of setting a breakpoint within the source code instead of the debugger. And it's actually kind of cool. So the way I discovered it, I actually discovered it from Jai. Believe it or not, I actually discovered it from Jai because inside of Jai, inside of the standard library of Jai, I found a pretty cool thing, right? So if you grab for int3, this is where it is. That's the first thing. So it has a function debug break, and for different platforms, as you can see, there's even PS5, by the way. So it emits these instructions. For x86 64, it's int3. For ARM, it's a different instruction. For WASM, it's this instruction, and so on and so forth. Jai just has this function, just sets breakpoint from within the source code. And yeah, that's how I learned about it. And it's actually, I think it's a pretty cool approach to that. I kind of knew about this instruction before when I was working with FASM, and I used it in FASM, but it never occurred to me to do 1+1 and start using it in C. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of one of these like things that are obvious in the hindsight, right? So, and it's actually super convenient, honestly. It's actually super convenient. Knob break. I'm planning to add that to knob, right? So I do plan to add that to knob, but I need to just come up with a similar if-def for different platforms and stuff like that. Great utility function. Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I really like that. So honestly, I learned a lot about programming in general just by reading the source code of the standard library of Jai. So even if Jai never comes out, I really hope it comes out eventually. Just being in the beta testing and reading the source code of the standard library, it was immense value for me already. I learned a ton of shit. There's a ton of knowledge in the standard library of Jai. It's so fucking cool. Isn't like std breakpoint. So C++ already added that? Does C++ have std breakpoint? I never heard about it though. Never heard of it. Std breakpoint. Apparently it is in C++. But who casually just reads a standard library of C++? C++ 26? I'm sure they stole that from Jai. But yeah, just saying, like, who casually reads the standard library of C++? What kind of person, what kind of huge nerd would fucking do that? Nobody does that, seriously. It's just like, but Jai, the standard library of Jai, is actually easy to read. So, and that's something that I do occasionally. So cheers, by the way. So anyways, this is not how you just do things, apparently. This is not how you do things. So yeah, we need to take a look at the documentation. So if I try to refresh FreeType, so it doesn't work. Do I have, I think I got I actually got prepared for the occasion like this. When I turn off my VPN and I can't access FreeType website anymore, I've got this little archive, and I think the stream is saved. So we have a FreeType documentation. And it's literally HTML, actually. It is literally HTML, and we can just open it in Firefox probably. So here it is. Dark Reader has a hard time to fucking processing this entire thing. I apologize for that. So documentation. So there's a bunch of tutorials and bitmaps. Bitmap. Can we, by the way, this is actually very interesting. So since it's a local HTML, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the flash banging you. I'm flash banging you just like I was banging you. So what we can do, we can probably grab this entire thing, right? So can I just grab FT bitmap? Grab FT bitmap. Do we have anything? So there's a glyphs. So that's pretty poggers, I think. So glyphs 7. All right. If I open it, FreeType bitmap. So if I enable, okay, so let's enable. It literally doesn't work on this thing. I apologize for that. So how can is there any way to invert the stuff? It's just like I don't fucking know. but we'll have to do something about it. I'm sorry about that. So descriptor, okay, so this is just a description converting outlines. Okay, cool, but it doesn't fucking tell me like how to do things. It just explains like how to interpret this entire thing. So Firefox reader mode. How do I enable? Okay, Firefox reader mode. Python 3 HTTP. So this is not a bad idea, honestly. But I mean, it will make it kind of difficult to search within this entire thing, but we can try. So Python 3M HTTP stackvar 6969. So it's going to be shell. All right. So I'm going to go into localhost and I'm going to enable the, and now it works. Honestly, why can't it just work with local files? Have they ever tested their stuff on local files? Do they parse URLs in here with some sort of like a regular expression tricks? And the local files literally... What the fuck is... Did we just found a bug in this thing? Maybe the browser doesn't let them, maybe. Yeah, so it's kind of weird, kind of bizarre. But anyways. So API reference. And it's just like, yeah, so there is no API reference. Which is bizarre. Design. Component and APIs. The only thing I want to do is to just find... Alright, so I'm kind of done with this. So glyphs is not particularly useful. Right, okay, so there is this thing. So there's examples. Okay, that is very poggers. So we found some example. There's literally some C code with tutorials and shit. So draw bitmap. Okay, so slot... I see. So you load the character and bitmap is already... I see what's going on in here, honestly. You already get the bitmap. You literally already get the bitmap and there is nothing much you can do about that. It's already rendered for you. I think that's what's going on. Yeah, so one more time, chat. One more time. Let's go to maybe somewhere here. Before we loaded the face, and I'm gonna try to recompile the whole thing and try to run it one more time. Yeah, new buffer. Let's run it. And we take a look at the face, right? And inside of the face, we have the glyphs and stuff like that. It's actually all kind of garbage, surprisingly. There's a lot of this stuff, but why is it not sorted in alphabetical order? I wish it was sorted in alphabetical order, but... And also the fact that some of them are have nested things and some of them don't have nested things, it makes it really difficult to read. But anyways, so face glyph, right? So that's the glyph. And in that example, it's a slot, and the slot, by the way, where is the slot? Where is the slot? It's a face glyph. It's a part of the slot. That's why I couldn't see the bitmap. And yeah, so here is the bitmap. Yeah, here it is, and it's 0. So that's the bitmap we were trying to allocate. It's part of the glyph that you're kind of loading. All right, so if I step, it didn't load shit, honestly. Right. So we got the glyph, but we don't have this thing, right? So we don't have this thing, unfortunately. So just loading didn't do shit. That's very interesting. So anyways, that's kind of funny. But now we kind of have to trigger the rendering of this entire stuff, don't we? Aha! It uses ftload to render. So that's basically what it does in here. Okay, so FreeType, and I want to take a look at this specific thing. So grab, like, what does the documentation say? Load render, and okay. So do you say anything about render? So this flag unsets render. So bitmap metrics only. Okay, so where is the documentation? After render glyph. After glyph is So there is a function called render glyph. Can we call it ourselves? Can we call it ourselves? Yes. So it's a glyph slot. Okay. So and also render mode. Render mode normal. Okay. So we're getting somewhere. The documentation is actually kind of useful. So you see, this is the power of the fucking example. Just a simple example, just a slight hint in the right direction, and we're already doing things. See what I'm saying? Right, so it's just like one simple example. None of the walls of text explaining, none of the simple example, just like hint in the direction, and we explore everything ourselves. Right, so no need to babysit this. Okay, got it. Cool. So we load the character. And then we have to provide the glyph slot. So that means I have to take the face and a glyph, right? So this is going to be a glyph, like so. And it has like a normal rendering mode, not normal, abnormal, and so on and so forth. Like I'm not really sure what exactly needs to be here. But yeah, so just a second. Let's take a look at the rendering mode. Is there any... Yeah. So if render mode is the previous call to load glyph with color load makes blah blah blah. Okay, so I'll just use render mode normal. Right, so render mode normal. Does it return any errors? Though it may return some errors. Okay, nice to know. And let's just like copy paste this entire thing in here. Could not render glyph. And I want to be able to render glyphs myself. Right, so for obvious reasons, right, so because I'm going to be just modifying the outlines and stuff like that. Right, I suppose this stuff is not particularly needed, right, so, but I mean, I'm not even sure if, yeah, none of that stuff is particularly needed, right. So, which raises an interesting question. Can I just modify the outlines, right, just modify the outlines and like render it again? Like I loaded the glyph, then I messed with the loaded glyph and then call render. Will that work? Because render probably doesn't care whether the outline was like actually the same as on the hard drive, right? So it just takes whatever was loaded, right? And if it's modified, it doesn't care. It will probably render the modified thing, right? So Golang error handling. I mean, it's the, you know, the most reliable error handling. Anyways, so what do we have in here? Let's try to recompile the whole thing, right? So it seems to be recompilable. And let's actually look at that in the debugger. Right, so new buffer, let's run this. We already have a debugger, by the way, here, so I need to close that. So let's take a look at the face glyph. Right, so this is the glyph. And what do we have in here? So we load the char, something modified in here. So here's the glyph index, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. And then here is the bitmap inside of the glyph, and I say, please render. Oh, блядь, сука, look. Oh, we got the thing. Yes, that's how you do that, блядь. That's how you fucking do that. So, can we save this entire shit? Right, so what's the buffer actually? So what's the buffer? Is it bytes or like I wish I could see the type. Can I take a look at the structure here? FT bitmap. Oh, I can. Okay, look at that. So buffer is unsigned char. Unsigned char. Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, let's try to save this entire motherflipper. Let's try to save this entire. We can, by the way, use ppm. We can use ppm. Who said we can't use ppm? We can use ppm. So let's open this entire thing. So this is going to be glyph ppm and yeah, something like this. So fprintf ppm time, exactly. So it's going to be p6. All right. So fprintf. So the size, what has to be a size? Yeah, it is too small, right? So we'll have to like maybe modify that somehow. So there's gonna be a row. So width is 18. So face glyph bitmap, right? Bitmap, and within the bitmap, is it also a pointer? Maybe it is not. Well, the compiler will tell me whether it is a pointer or not a pointer. And then this is the rows. So we do that, and we also have to put a new line in here, fprintf, and so this has to be 255, like so. What are the types in here? What are the types? They are unsigned integers. Okay, so they are in fact unsigned integers. So the f may be a null pointer. You are technically correct, but your message is absolutely useless. You know why? Because on x86-64 on Linux, if it is a null pointer, it is going to segfault on the next call, and we're gonna instantly catch that. Your message is technically correct, but absolutely useless. So here is how we're gonna be actually. Let's actually do something like this. Yeah, Raz Dev Shivering, exactly. You do realize that machine will tell me that I made a mistake. Machine. We don't need you, human. You've been automated. You do realize that. Just think about it for a second. We don't need people who look at the code and trying to find potential null pointer exceptions, because the machine will tell us when the null pointer exception happens. You got replaced. You got automated. You irrelevant. I'm sorry. Sorry, that's just the progress. Don't be a Luddite. Don't. It's progress. Can't go against progress. I'm sorry. Anyways, so what we're going to be doing in here, and we can just take a bite. We can just take a bite. Go take a bite, take a bite. It is probably, it's le buffer. It is, oh, it also has pixel modes and palettes. Ooh. Ooh, I hope I can just use it as a grayscale. I really hope this is just a grayscale. Okay, so num grays. This is cool. So num grays is the amount of the grayscale things, and the fact that it is 256 means that it's just like a grayscale image, just a regular grayscale image. I don't have to think about it. So pixel mode 2 probably means something blah blah blah, whatever, just like it's a grayscale or whatever. We can look into that. Right, so maybe I want to assert that, right? I think one thing we have to do, we have to assert that it is in the correct pixel mode or whatever. Right, so it's the FT bitmap, right? So here is the FT bitmap, and yeah, so where is the FT bitmap? Here it is. Here it is. Pixel mode. Do you have a documentation? Pixel mode. How pixels bits are stored. Okay, FT pixel mode. Okay. Pixel gray. Pixel, more like pixel gay. Okay, and here it is 0, 1, 2. This is pretty cool. So what I want to do in here is basically say, after we render the whole thing, face glyph bitmap pixels mod, right? So it's going to be pixel mod equal to this specific pixel mod, and we're going to assert that specifically, right? So because the code kind of assumes that it is a pixel mod, and that assumption we can have in here is num grace is equal to 156, right? So if it is something else, right, so we're not going to work with that. We only work with this kind of situation. So all right, so let's go ahead and just like take a byte. So maybe it's going to be uint 8. So this is going to be something like this, bitmap, and it is the buffer. So it's buffer, and I suppose we're going to do, yeah, we have to multiply that by pitch. pitch plus x, and then f put c f like this. So right, basically if it's a grayscale, we're gonna use this value as the RGB component, and that's gonna be grayscale. The Twitter post was fine. Thank you, this you used. I really appreciate you. Okay, so let's do something like this. So this is going to be close, and as you can see, yeah, knowledge from that post is actually kind of useful, right? So we can now just like use that for the debugging. So stdint. Okay, so you need to have assert. This is assert stdint and stuff like that. Okay, that seems to be working. So can I maybe now say? Well, I mean, it's gonna say okay if I run the whole thing. Is it gonna say okay? Ah, it's a trap. All right, let's get rid of the trap. All right. Ooh. Ooh. Cool. Absolute budgeting. Absolute budgeting. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So that means we can render shit on demand. That is already kind of cool, honestly. That is already kind of cool. But where did we specify the size of the bitmap? How can, like, I don't remember specifying the size of the bitmap anywhere. Like, where does it come from, honestly? Yep. No null pointer, yeah. Scaling, maybe. So let's take a look at this example. Maybe there is some example in here. Right, so because here we are initializing library new phase set character size. Would you look at that? So would you look at that, scheiße? Set character size. Okay. So 50 points at 100 DPI and blah blah blah. So and you set it for the phase specifically. So let's take a look at this function. Right. So is it going to be useful for anything? Okay. So that's the function. Char width, char height, horizontal resolution, vertical resolution. Damn, that's a lot of shit. So it can stretch it if I just specify them differently or what? So request size to request the normal size. Call request size to request the normal size. How is that? So input. Well, this function allows fractional points as input values. The result ppm value for the given resolution is always rounded to the nearest integers. I have no idea what the fuck you're even talking about, but I mean, okay, so this is a fraction, like a fixed point. 26.6. Oh, wait a second. I kind of remember the documentation talking about fixed point values and having different formats, and 26.6 was one of them. If you add 26 plus 6, it's 32-bit. Does that mean that for fixed point they're using 32-bit integers and they reserve the first 6 bits for the fractional part and 26 for the whole part? So the lower ones, the 6 lower ones, is that what this format means? I think that's what it means. 26 bits integer part and 6, okay. So, and they even have like reserved the type for this specific thing. Okay, so that's kind of cool actually. This is really cool because addition will just work, right? So if you just alias this type to uint32 and you add them together, they will add properly, right? So you don't have to worry about this kind of stuff. Multiplication is probably a little bit difficult, right? So, well, I mean, a little bit involved, not difficult, but that's kind of cool way to do that, I think. So just like a specific precision. So I could be wrong, but I believe FreeType has a function set pixel size. Well, we can take a look at that. So, but I mean, character size. We have a character size. So anyways, so I'm gonna actually kind of save this entire thing. So let me grab this set pixel size. Oh, okay. So there's a set pixel sizes. Aha, you're right. Oh my god, chat actually said something that is true. So call pixel size to request the normal size in pixels. It's kind of so you first request this thing and then you kind of set stuff based on that. All right. So the normal width in pixels. So this one is another useful thing. So I'm gonna probably also put it in here. So here's the pixel size. But they're also mentioning like requesting things first. I'm also curious about this function, like requesting things. If I try to request this function, so what does it do? Okay, so all the drivers, what are they talking about? Resize the scale of the active size objects in phase. Request. So you're requesting the system to allocate a certain size or whatever. So, and then, right, so it has this thing, right, and I wonder where request size rect is probably like alias to this one, and it's just like width, height. Okay, so it's just like basically different adapters to different functions. Right? So it seems like these two functions are both the wrappers for that lower. Yeah, exactly. It's just like lower level stuff, right? Because there's different conversions and stuff like that. So the thing I want you to like take a look at this type because it kind of nerd sniped me, right? With its format and stuff like that. I want to take a look how exactly it is implemented. I'm really sorry. Right, so it's just like, what exactly is that? Okay, and it is, look at that, it's assigned long. So actually, probably, for the whole part, we don't have 26 bits, we have 25, because one of them is probably used for the sign. And it's used only in these two places, right? So it, like in this specific place, and fascinating. So they don't even, oh, there's another one, 2.14, 60 for shorts. Oh my god. And there is just fixed, and fixed is 1616. So they have fixed point numbers with different formats and shit, with different precisions and stuff like that. And they don't seem to provide any utilities to operate on them, because I suppose it doesn't matter, right? So suppose it doesn't matter. Addition and subtraction probably will work, but I feel like multiplication actually offsets your points, right? So after multiplication, you can't just multiply two fixed point numbers. You have to multiply them and then divide by the size of the fractional part, right? So because it extends further. Do you understand that correctly? Yeah, you have to shift it back. So, yeah, so you can't just directly multiply that. Interesting. What's the advantage of fixed point types? Yeah, so Spirit might actually explain it. Works without FPU or costly emulation, also much easier to reason about. Yeah, exactly. So you have like a fixed precision. So the thing about IEEE 754 floating point numbers is that the precision actually kind of scales depending on the size of the number. So, yeah. And here, I don't know, maybe like traditionally, maybe a FreeType is designed to work on any kind of hardware, including the one that doesn't have floating point numbers. It's basically like working with money in... Exactly, that's a good one, actually. Right, that's a good one. It's like working with money. And in finances, nobody really uses floating point numbers. IEEE 754, right? Because it's just like the precision keeps like changing around, floating around. That's why it's called floating point numbers, by the way. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So does it mean that there is not a single floating point number in the entire library? It's really funny that you try to like search for float, and that's like the first thing that they tell you. All right, so and basic types, yeah. So this section contains the basic data types defined by FreeType 2, ranging from simple scaleless types to bitmap descriptors, more font-specific structures, blah, blah, blah. Note that FreeType does not use floating point data structure. Fractional values are represented by fixed point integers with lower bits storing the fractional part. They're just stating that they do that, right? But they don't provide the reasoning why exactly they decided to go that route. So no floating point goofiness, yeah. I guess they want to have a precise control, like over how the glyphs are rendered and stuff like that, which kind of makes sense, honestly, which kind of makes sense. So we can set the pixel sizes and stuff like that. So I think I want to make a small break. And make a cup of tea. And after I make a small break and a cup of tea, we're gonna try to maybe modify the outline. So the idea is that I literally want to iterate through each individual control point outline and just mess with it. Just move it around and stuff like that, just like offset it slightly, and then try to render it again. And see if the renderer will pick up the changes and distort it and distort the thing. Right, and then once we are able to do that, we can basically just do this thing that I did in an atlas, right? So just basically 3 variants of the same character, but automatically for any font. I think that's kind of cool, I think. But anyway, let's make a cup of tea, and we are back. So let's freaking go. Let's try to maybe make it a little bit bigger by maybe setting the pixel sizes. So I have to set the pixel sizes to onto the face. Thank you so much for giving so much money to Jeffrey Bezos' Definite Potato. I don't get anything from all of that. So, okay, what we're gonna have in here, maybe we load the glyph, but like I'm not really sure at which point I need to set the size. Maybe I need to set it somewhere here. And the thing is, what if I set pixel width and pixel height to something like this, right? So it's just gonna be, width is gonna be bigger than the height, and I just do something like that. Will it literally stretch the letter, right? Will it literally stretch it, or will it do something else? I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. All right, so now if I try to recompile the whole thing and see what's gonna happen, okay, so we have okay. It will. So how do I know the proper ratio of this entire thing? So that's like a wide queue. Can I make it even wider? Might as well. Okay, so just a second. Can I just multiply it by 10 in here? Is it Emacs? What the fuck are you? What the fuck are you doing, Emacs? Are you okay? All right. There we go. So this is 1 megabyte. So let's take a look. That's a huge ass queue. That it's kind of funny, and it's so smooth as well. Look at that. It's just like perfectly smooth. Damn. Anyways, it's a queue. So I need to know the ratio that I can put in there. Can I just put 0 and hope that maybe it will do something correct? Oh, I can just like set width to 0, and that's a correct ratio, I think. So that's pretty cool. I can make it like 25 now, just gonna be smaller. And if I take a look at that stuff, yeah, that's boogers, I think. So does FreeType use the same curve rasterizer you implemented last time? I don't know. Okay, so let's actually set something to 100, right? So I want to have it like relatively big, so I can see stuff, right? So I think it's a good size in here, or maybe even bigger. What about 500? What about 500? So that's a good one. That's a good size. So all right, so this is gonna be orig because it's an original one. And the next thing we need to do, we need to literally mess with the control points somehow. Let's freaking do that. So in the spline nodes, we already know how to iterate the output lines. All right, so in the outline we have endpoints, and these are the control points, right? So we can kind of do literally the same. So let's actually close the debugger. We don't need that. So we set the sizes. We loaded queue. We're not gonna render it. Before we try to render it, we'll need to iterate all of these things. So I'm gonna do it from 0 to face glyph outline, not output. It's outline, and we have endpoints. Right, so ++I. So inside of this thing, we literally have points which are vectors. So in the vectors, if I remember correctly, I vaguely remember that they're also fixed points. So fixed point values. Let me go ahead and just grab the definition of this thing and read potential documentation that can be lying around. All right, here it is. So what is that? Okay, ftpose. So a simple structure used to store a 2D vector coordinates are of the type ftpose. I don't really know what is ftpose. It's a signed long it's a 66. Oh, it's 16, or 26.6. So the type of pose is used to store vectorial coordinates. Depending on the context, this can represent distances in integer font units or one of these fixed point pixel coordinates. How the fuck do I know which one? Man, okay. So I do remember there was an article in FreeType that was explaining how to work with this, with the curves and stuff like that. And I don't remember, so Edinets was that, yeah, here it is. And I think it's one of those, it's a glyph 6. Obviously, I can't really open this article, but I'm gonna add that article to YouTube people in the description, right? This is not what I wanted to copy paste. There we go. This is what I wanted to copy paste. But I do have, I think, glyph 6 in the documentation, in local documentation. So let's actually go to document, docs. Do we have glyphs? Glyph 6 here. No, we don't have glyphs. Where is the? Yeah, here it is. That's what I'm talking about, broski. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go. Fuck, it's one of these shices. All right, so yeah, it kind of explains how to work with all of that stuff. So let's actually do the oh, we still have this thing running. Yeah. So that's actually kind of cool. And that means I can theoretically go somewhere here, but I need to figure out. So documentation, can you? Oh, why does it go to the official website? So features. Yeah, that's bizarre. So there's an API reference. So it just like, can you? Actually, I think that's the root. Finally, okay, cool. Everything seems to be working. Now, there's an explanation how to interpret all of that stuff, right? So array of point coordinates, right? So this is basically the fields of the outline. Thank you so much for the subs. Thank you. So here points as an integer to an array of t vectors records used to store the vectorial coordinates of each outline. These are expressed in 1.16th of a pixel, which is also known as the 26 fixed point format. Okay. That's very interesting, actually. Wait a second. Aha! So that's why it's 6. Ah, all right. That explains it. So it's a sub-pixel resolution, and sub-pixel resolution is basically 64. Right. So they take a pixel as a square, right? So they take a pixel as a square and they divide that square in 64 times horizontally and 64 times vertically. And it's just like 64 by 64. So that's the subpixel resolution. But why 26? Because that's the rest of the bits. They're using 32 bits to store fixed point value. fixed point value, they allocate 6 bits, 6 lower bits for the fractional part because it's a sub-pixel resolution, and the rest, 26 bits, is for the whole part. But in reality, they don't even use 26 bits for the whole part, they use 25 because it's a signed fixed point integer value. So 1 bit is reserved for the sign. So 1 bit for the sign, 25 for the whole part, and 6 for the sub part for sub-pixel resolution. So that's basically how it works. And so the question is how we want to mess with all of that stuff. How we want to mess with all of this stuff. Which also means, by the way, if we literally just take something like 64, that's basically equal to 1 in that format. So by adding 64, you add in 1 pixel. So another thing is, yeah, so that's actually nice to have like the intuition over what that means. So is Twitch fucking me or stream problem? We didn't drop more frames since the last time we dropped the frames, right? So we still have 452 drop. I think, yeah, so that's the number that we dropped last time. So okay, so now I know what are the points, right? So that means I'm well equipped to fuck with them. How can we fuck with the points? Essentially, we can randomly just add 64 or subtract 64. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yes. So essentially, maybe we can do the following thing. So it's going to be px and maybe plus, and I just want to have maybe a function that returns 3 value. Let's call it rand sign. I think it's a very good function, which I also multiply by 64. So what is this function doing? What's the function doing? Okay, so it's going to be ft pause. It's a rand sign. The idea of this function is to return one of the 3 values. -1, 0, or 1. It's just a random sign, because usually sign function in C++ or whatever C++ sign function, it's a function that takes a value and returns you one of the 3 values, a sign bit, right? Either -1, 0, or 1. We want to have like a random sign, and it returns one of these 3 things. And then we're going to be using that sign to multiply by 64. So that means it will randomly either do not do anything with x, or subtract 64, or add 64. And we're going to do that with y as well, also randomly for each individual point. So basically we're fucking with the points randomly. Fucking with the points. And why 64? Because 6 bits, right? So the whole part is, like the fractional part is 6 bits, so that means 64 is 1. We're offsetting shit by 1 pixel, control points by 1 pixel. We're just fucking with them. See what I'm saying? That's kind of the whole idea of today's stream, right? So to just fuck with the points as much as possible and see if it's going to change anything. So anyways, so we need to implement this function. How can we implement this function? That should be relatively straightforward. Since we have 3 values, we can just do this, which will give us 0, 1, 2. And you literally have to offset the whole thing by 1, subtract 1. That shifts the whole thing to -1. 0, 1. So, and there you go. So that's the random sign. It's just poggers. I think it's poggers. So we just go to all the points, just fucking with them, and then we just try to render them. So let's fucking go. And maybe yeah. So maybe I want to do that in debugger. Do I have to do that in debugger? Another interesting thing is that usually glyphs has like a very specific bounding box, and I'm afraid that by fucking with the point, we're also fucking with its boundary box. Maybe we'll have to recalculate it. I vaguely remember in the API something about b-box. Do you guys remember that there was like a b-box thingy? It's fine. Okay, it's fine. Okay, let's fucking run it. Let's fucking run it. All right. Post, not post. Fuck you. Okay. So one thing we can try to do, by the way, chat, we can take a look at the hashes of both of these things. So here's the glyph original, and here's the glyph ppm. Are they different? They're the same, motherfucker! There literally nothing changed. Chat. This is obscene. I was fucking with the points and literally nothing. Did I recompile? I recompiled. I literally recompiled. So what do I do now? So fuck this shit. Okay, so this is the glyph and nothing changed. You didn't load a vector back. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Ah, you are. Damn, you're smart. And I'm stupid. Fuck. Okay. Let's fucking go. Okay. And they're different. All right. So, and it's a little bit bigger. Is it fucked? I think it is slightly fucked. It's 1 pixel, it's kind of hard to tell. Maybe we have to fuck it more. Okay, so fuck factor is gonna be a 2. Alright, fuck factor. There we go, multiplied by that, and we're gonna try. Okay, so I'm gonna factor. So auto revert mode. I'm gonna enable the auto revert mode and I'm gonna just like run the whole thing. It is getting fucked. Chat. Do you see that? It's getting fucked. Holy shit. Alright, so let's increase the fuck factor. The fuck. It's getting absolutely fucking destroyed. Holy shit. That's what I'm talking about. Look how fucked it is. So what's funny is that it uses the same seed, right? So it uses the same seed and that's why it looks the same. So what we have to do srand and time. So now the seed depends on the time. So we also have to do something like time.h or whatever. All right, so I didn't fucking compile because you have to supply 0. Okay, so why are you asking me? I think it works, chat. This is line boiling effect. Essentially. This is so fucking cool. This is what I'm talking about. Holy shit. Holy shit, блядь. Опа! So, what's gonna be the next thing? We just have to now generate the atlas, right? So it's just like that. That's what we have to do. We have the technology, chat. So there's a pull request. Dynamically generate map pages. Okay, whatever. So we have to generate this thing. Looks kind of bad. That's the point. It's supposed to be bad. We're trying to emulate this thing. Like, we're trying to emulate this effect. It's supposed to be bad. But we can maybe reduce the factor, the factor. Right, so because the reason why it looks that bad is because it fucks with them too much. So can you only mess with the control points that are on and off the curve? We can, actually. That's a good point, because like for those who doesn't know, right, so those who didn't watch the previous session, so each individual point has a tag which tells you what kind of control point is that. And there's the control points that are on the curve or off the curve and so on and so forth. But then there's also virtual on the curve points. That's the thing. There's a virtual on the curve. And that's kind of bizarre and difficult to work with. I think the fog factor should be just slightly smaller, I think. I think we just can reduce the fog factor and that should be a little bit better already. Where's my compilation mode? Yeah, just like make a small fog factor and it already looks better. Yeah, so like I just exaggerated the fog factor just to see that it works, but it has to be like 2 or 1, like a couple of pixels. It doesn't really have to be too big. Okay, anyway, how can we maybe generate the atlas? How can we generate the atlas? Well, we need to have the atlas somewhere, right? So we need to allocate the atlas. we also need to know the character size. So just joining the stream, first thing I see is a fog factor. Welcome to the Sojing stream, by the way. So, okay, I'm gonna go into Subun, right? So we're looking into Subun, and that's the application with which we're trying to integrate and stuff. I do remember that there were like a common parts. So here are the common parts, and we have things like character width and character height, and that's basically the width and height within the atlas. So where is the assets? It's not the latest version, by the way, so let me fetch the latest version. So there's some stuff in here. So let me go to the master and fetch the latest stuff. Alright, so it's gonna be that 39 commits. Holy shit. Alright, so let's merge that. So how many changes did we make? Yeah, that's a lot of changes. That's a lot of changes. Let me do git clean fdx. I'm gonna clean everything up, and I'm gonna try to remake everything from scratch. So just to see if everything's fine. Everything seems to be fine. That's pretty cool. Okay. So and that's the latest Subun. Alright, that's the latest Subun. That's pretty cool. Now, I want to grab these parameters, right? So sprite character width and stuff like that. So this is a sprite character width, and maybe I can literally just set the size of the character that I'm rendering in here. So here's this, here it is, and set size. Where is the set size? Okay, so I'm gonna just grab that. Sprite character width and sprite character height, which is probably a bad idea, right? But yeah, because it's probably the ratio of the sprite is not the same as the ratio of the font, but just for the experiment I think it's going to be fine. Alright, so if I try to run the whole thing, okay, so look at that. Yeah, so and factor has to be adjusted depending on the resolution and stuff. And as you can see, the size of this character is kind of roughly similar to the size of this thing, but I'm not 100% sure if it is. But we'll see. Anyway, so the fog factor. Let's actually set it to 1 because for this specific size, it's too much. Yeah, so that's a good one. I think that's a good one. All right, so we have this thing. So the amount of characters we have is essentially from 0 to 9, and it's 10 plus 1, 11. Plus 1 is because of the colon, right? So we need to generate the colon. So atlas, and this is going to be, I don't know, let's actually do something like this, right? So because it's a grayscale anyway. Can you scale fog factor to width so it's proportional? I can, but I don't want to do it right now. So it's going to be, in terms of width, let's actually have something like atlas width and atlas height, right? So atlas width is going to be equal to sprite character width multiplied by 11, right? So that's how many characters we have in here. Do we have all of that stuff in here? So do we have no, we don't actually. All right, so that's fine. Atlas height is a sprite character height, and by the way, usually it's a good idea to wrap this stuff around, multiplied by 3, and this is the amount of variance we're generating. This is the amount of variance. If you take a look at the atlas, right, there's a 3 variance, but we can generate more. Since we're doing that automatically, we can generate as many as we want, but usually 3 is enough. All right, so, and we can maybe factor it out. So variance count is 3, and we just multiply it by variance count. Sprite character height multiplied by the variance count. And there we go. So we have atlas width and atlas height. So this one is obviously 0 initialized and stuff like that. All right, that's cool. That's cool. And essentially what we have to do, we have to have some sort of a loop. So we already set the size. We don't have to set it anymore. Now, what I want to do, I want to iterate the variance. Variant starting from 0 less than variance count. we're iterating the variant and variant. And for each variant, we're going to be doing this thing. We're going to be loading the character, messing with the outlines, rendering the glyph, saving it. But instead of saving it, we'll have to put it into appropriate place within the atlas, right? So we'll have to perform like a pixel copy of some sort, right? So that means this should be enough, okay? So, and it is int 8. But within this entire thing, we also have to have another loop which iterates the characters. And maybe, I feel like, we should have characters in here. So characters and characters. And I don't know how many we're gonna have in here, but can I just do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah, so it's already that, digits, yeah, and then colon. So this has to be 11. By the way, if I do size of chars, what size of chars is equal to, by the way? Does anybody know? Does anybody remember? If I define chars like this, what's going to be the size of chars? I think it's going to be 12. I'm placing my bet on 12 because it's a multi-terminator or something, but I don't remember for sure. Because of that, I need to double check. So this is going to be 0, and I'm going to try to run error. It doesn't like that error is not defined. What are you talking about, Brovsky? 4. 12. You guys are right. You guys are right. It's 12. So is that a good idea for me? I don't fucking know, honestly. So it's just like, it's kind of annoying, but I don't fucking know. Can I select the whole thing and query replace with a regular expression? I'm taking a single character and capturing that single character, placing that single character within a quote and putting like a comma and space, and boom. Ah, fuck. One more time. Yeah, so, and I want to replace it with 1. Boom. Just a second. Why nothing works? All right. Because I'm capturing it incorrectly. Boom. So now I can actually put it like that. So the size is going to be 11. Emacs moment. Yeah, exactly. So as you can see, it is 11. It's actually 11. But anyways, anyways, so what we're gonna have in here, let's say this is a specific digit. Since we're calling them digits, right, so we might as well call them digits in here. So this is digits. Starting from 0, digit less than array size. Is that a good idea? Maybe I can just do size of digits. Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm gonna tell you backstory of that name is that originally I just created like an atlas and call it digits because I thought, okay, I'm gonna be displaying digits. Okay, this is digits, and then I realized, oh, I also need a colon, but it's not digits anymore, and I kind of left it being called digits, and like, how do I call it now? So, okay, so it's kind of annoying. Like, it used to be digits. You add one character, it's not digits anymore. How the digits with a colon? No, symbols. Okay, thank you so much. So let's call it symbols. Ta-da-da, ta-da-da, ta-da-da. Alright. It's hard, man. Programming is hard. Don't become a programmer. So AI already automated programming. There's nothing to do anything anymore. Anyways, so, and we're gonna be just doing that, 3 times 11 per 11 times or whatever. So symbols, and I'm loading this specific symbol, right? So that should be fine. I'm loading it up. I'm fucking it up. Just fucking it up. And after I fucked it up, I have to place it somewhere. Become a carpenter. Exactly. Where do I have to place it, chat? Where do I have to place it, chat? I have to place it at symbol multiplied by sprite character width. That's the X of where I have to place this entire shit. In the thank you so much. So that's the X. Right, so this is the symbols. What about the Y? And get the variant multiplied by sprite height. There we go. So that's pretty cool. But I'm probably going to be using X and Y for iterating things. So it probably makes sense to maybe call it PX and PY for position, right? Or maybe Atlas X and Atlas Y. Okay. So after that, we gotta be iterating all that stuff from 0 up until sprite character height plus y. Then we're iterating x 0, x less than sprite character width plus x. There we go. And now we just have to copy the pixels. Where's the bitmap? Okay, so by the way, it probably makes sense to assert this whole thing after we rendered, right? So we rendered this entire thing, and that's what we assert in here. Yeah, so we have rows, and yeah, there we go. So here is that. We are iterating this stuff. Hopefully, by the way, sprite width and sprite character is kind of similar. Well, yeah, it's probably in pixels, so that should be fine. Let me do a little bit of an interesting assertion, chat. I'm gonna assert that the width is kind of like equal to this thing that we allocated, because I have a feeling that they might not be equal, and that will fuck us up a little bit, just a tiny bit. Okay, so here's what we're doing in here. Okay, so then we take an atlas, and so this is where the atlas starts, and we kind of, the index into which we're copying is y, but offset by atlas y. So we put it in here, and then x offset by atlas x, and in terms of width it has to be atlas width, and we're just assigning one thing to another. It's kind of a horrendous expression, to be fair, but we can factor out these things. So this is going to be I, right? So this is I index, and another one is going to be j, right? So something like that, size t, j. Look at that, and we're just copying one. Forgot the x. Okay, so x and j. Look at that. That's a little bit more compact. And yeah, so that just fills in the entire atlas. And we can put digits in here, right? So width and height is going to be, by the way, atlas width and atlas height. Atlas height 255. Here we are iterating atlas height, atlas width. All right, and we're copying the pixels of the atlas, right? So this is atlas, atlas width, and there we go. That's it, believe it or not. And if we didn't make any mistakes, that should be basically it. Right, let's go to the compilation notes. Symbols. Did I call it? It should be symbols because there are several of them. All right. So let's go ahead and try to run this thing. Hell, I fucking knew it. It will fuck it up. Even though we explicitly set the freaking pixel size, they're still different. Motherfucker. Alright. So it probably makes sense to print them just to see what exactly is going on in here. Alright, so it's gonna be... Alright, so ZU expected expected this, and I suppose there are differ like very subtly, right? So it's probably not that much, but like very subtly, because of rounding errors and stuff like that. So it's gonna be actual ZU, right? So let's put this stuff in here like so, and this is this thing, and I just want to take a look at them. Nothing special. So this is going to be expected width and height. Actual, let's realign all of that stuff so they are aligned. This is going to be height, and this is rows. The semicolons, spend 3 hours debugging. Look at that. Also print le symbol. I don't fucking know, man. I don't fucking know. But maybe it's yeah, it's probably compressed. It's probably compressed. I don't think it's around in error. I don't think it's around in error, but it's. If we take a look at the other thing, right? So expected, it's always less. Look at that. It's probably always less. So the actual bounding box in which it is rendered, it is probably just tightly compressed. Yeah, it's trimmed. This is the word I was looking for. Thank you so much, Alberto. This is what I'm looking for. So assertion here probably should be not equal, but less. Or equal, yeah, less or equal. So let's actually change it to this. This thing has to be not equal. I'm glad that I put this assertion. Assertions are lifesavers, I'm telling you, right? So always check your assumptions, always check your invariance. If you have some sort of like a condition that you kind of keep in mind, but you can't check it at compile, always put an assertion, right? So especially if a thought, oh, this will never happen, crosses your mind, put an assertion for that specific thought, right? So how many times you think in your head, oh, this will never happen, put an assertion, confirm that at runtime that this will never happen, right? So just because something may change, the surrounding, the environment of the code may change, and then the assertion will fire up. Right. Okay, so we generated some stuff. So because it's trimmed, I suppose the character is going to be shifted to the left upper corner, right? So one of the things we'll have to do, on top of just copying the characters, we'll have to center them within the bounding box. Let's actually open the digits. There we go. So something that is why there's two of them. But I mean, it kind of worked. And they are kind of different, right? So there's also two of them. But anyway, so something terrible has happened. So here's the characters. Symbols, each symbol is a character, and I suspect character is one element. So that was kind of bizarre. Spooky digits, yeah. Where did they make a fucking mistake, bruvskis? Where did they make a fucking mistake? I know. Anyway. So what we have to do instead in here, by the way, beatboxing too much, starting to spit a lot. So this is not really pitch, isn't it? It's more like we have to iterate bitmap width, I think. We have to iterate bitmap width and bitmap row. So bitmap left and bitmap top. Oh, it has like the bitmap left, but this is not what I want actually. I don't think it's gonna be useful for us for anything. Right, so I'm just gonna keep it like this. All right, there we go. So this is exactly what I was talking about. It has to be now centered. All right, it has to be now centered. How is it going to be centered? That's a very good question. We can use bitmap left and bitmap top, but it also, I suspect this bitmap left and bitmap top, it also takes into account this, like a baseline and whatnot. You need the left and top for centering. Do I need the left and top for centering? I don't think so. Do I really need that? If it's cropped, why do I need that? I don't understand why I need that. Like, I don't see it. Anyway, I'm gonna ignore that. All right. So the thing we can do is now. So this is gonna be that, and we have to kind of add half the width. We adding half the width, but subtracting half the width of the glyph. We're adding now half the height and subtracting half the rows. Yes, left top, I didn't need that. Look, I centered it. I don't get it. Like, I don't think I need that. So yeah. And what's funny is that this is, we can convert that to PNG. Convert digits, PNG. There we go. So we got PNG, and that's the PNG thing. And I can go to Suwon now. Suwon assets, and I can replace it theoretically, and I can just rebuild the whole thing. Right, so it's going to be something like that. All right, it is building. It's taking some time. And take a look at Suwon RGFW. It is working, but I forgot that it's supposed. That is so fucking cool, honestly. It's supposed to be transparent. I should have actually used the transparent thing. That's so fucking cool. Holy shit. Yeah, it just works. Yeah, almost judging. I just fucked up the digits, right? So it has to be slightly different. How can we just directly generate the pixels? Can I just do 32? Right, and just like use STB image right. Let's go and just find nothing's STB. Last stretch, yeah. STB image right. So here it is. Alright. So I'm gonna just put that in here. So because we need transparency, and PPM doesn't really support transparency, I think. STB image. Let's open the image right. Image right implementazione. Then we're gonna include stb image write.h, stbim, stbi, write png. Let's write png. So here it is. File name is going to be digits png. And it's going to be atlas width, atlas height, amount of components 4 this time, atlas, the amount of bytes in stride, so it's basically width button bytes, multiplied by size of atlas, maybe just like take this 0 value in here. So, and yeah, I'm just gonna run it without checking an error. Fork errors. So this one, it just gives me the component in here, right? So this is just like this specific component, like so. And essentially what I want to do, honestly, I might as well just use this component as alpha. I think that's a good idea, honestly. So alpha is here. So usually this is alpha, BB, GG, RR. Like if you're trying to present RGB A to 32, this is going to be the order in here. So that means we need to set this thing to here. We need to have set 1 by 3 bytes. That means 3 multiplied by 8. So we have set 3 multiplied by 8, and that's basically the alpha. And now we need to set this to 0 and replace all of these things. All of these things with just F. Query replace that with F. Right, and we just OR them together. Right, so I set this as alpha, and that's my thing in here. So atlas I, and that should be it. Yeah, let's fucking go. Yeah, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted. Okay. Okay, digits PNG, transparency. We got transparency. This is good. Chat. Yeah. So assets, let's copy paste this thing, override this scheisse. Let's go build with 16 threads to make it a little bit faster. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes. All right, so this is going to be Suwon or GFW. You can now customize the font, and the line boiling effect is still going to be present. It's an absolute bajudinger! And you can also pause it. That seems to be working, right? So it's just like... so the only thing you need to do, you just need to generate that atlas, right? So as soon as you manage to generate that atlas, all of that is going to just work. We can change the fog factor. Let's actually take the fog factor and set it to 2, for example, and see how it goes. Like a line boil, and where's the fog? Okay, so let's put it to 2, and let's regenerate. So for now, you have to do that manually, right? But then maybe later we're gonna integrate all of that stuff. It's fucked a little bit more. It's actually pretty fucked, not gonna lie. I think it might be too much, actually. But I think for testing purposes, it's good, right? So just for testing purposes, let's put that stuff in here. So we replaced all of that stuff. Let's rebuild it. Suwon RGFW. Okay. Rebuilding. Let's fucking go. And it's fucked. It's fucked beyond repair, honestly. Yeah. But I mean, it generally works, right? So it kind of works. But for this specific one, I think 1 is better. It's just better. All right, so let's go back and Suwon. So ppm. Okay, copy it. Boom. You can fog subset of the points. I think that will look better. Yeah. So I think it's just like I need to go into the subpixel territory, but I didn't do that because I didn't want to worry about it too much. So how do you guys like it? What can we do? Can we try to do IOSEFCA? We can try IOSEFCA. Let's try IOSEFCA. So do we have a IOSEFCA anywhere? I think I do have IOSEFCA in Panim. There's assets in here, and there's different fonts, and here's IOSEFCA bold. Times New Roman. I don't have Times New Roman. And I think it's a proprietary font, and I think it's going to work that well. Okay, so IOSEFCA bold, and let's set it to something. Okay, so comic bold, and let's do that. Let's try to do this. All right, digits, PNG. That's IOSEFCA, a little bit fucked around. Oh, honestly, like subtle fucked is actually good. Like being fucked in a subtle way is actually kind of good, I think. All right, and in sudden Suwon. So a boom. A good hard fog. Yeah, so that's the thing. It's pretty subtle if you compare it to this one. This one is actually like jumping around too much, but this one is a little bit more subtle. Handwritten looks, yeah, so handwritten always looks better, right? Because it feels natural. It kind of feels natural. But if you want to customize it, I kind of want to preserve this look. And obviously I need to like play with the factor a little bit more, right? I obviously need to play it with it a little bit more. And maybe also explore this idea of only modifying the on curve points, which are not like control points. Yeah, but the main idea is already implemented. It is possible to do that procedurally, and that's exactly what I wanted to explore in today's stream. And I think I achieved the goal of today's stream, right? So I guess that's it for today. Thanks everyone who's watching right now. It was fun. I really appreciate that. Have a good one, and I see you all on the next recreation programming session with Mr. Azozin. I love you. Mwah.